All right, folks. So let's move on to the next speaker, Dr. José Morey. He is the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Astra Media LLC. He is an Eisenhower Fellow and a co-founder of Ever Medical Technologies. He is a health and technology keynote speaker, an author, and a consultant for NASA, Forbes, MIT, the United Nations World Food Program, and the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. He is considered the first intergalactic doctor and is featured on Forbes, Univision, CNBC, and NASA 360. He coined Puerto Rico as the future Silicon Island. His latest essay, The Future Shock of Medicine, How AI Will Transform Disease, Death, and Doctors, was recently reviewed by the Wall Street Journal, and his next book, Evolution of Latino Digital Intelligence by Wiley Publishing, is scheduled to be released, or was just released, October 2021. So let's welcome Dr. José Morey.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you being here with us.
Likewise. I'll jump in right into my presentation, Eric.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
All right. So let me share my screen. Can you guys see this now?
There you go. All right, sir.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Eric. Thank you for Raices for the invitation to speak with everyone today. I really appreciate it and don't take it for granted. I know a lot of the speakers were having a lot of different types of conversations. I will be focusing on how we can use the power of media for social good, particularly how do we get kids from underrepresented communities to be inspired to go into the fields of science and technology, or the STEAM fields. That's why I created at Astra Media, and that's what we're focused on. We'll show some projects that have been done previously using informal science, and also some of the things that we've been working on over the last few years, and we'll highlight some things that have worked, some things that haven't worked. For the most part, though, we know what the problem is, right? Keenan spoke about this. I'm sure some of the other speakers did as well, of the lack of diversity, not just in cyber, but it's really across the spectrum of the STEM and STEAM industries, that science, technology, engineering, math industries, arts involved into that, which is what at Astra Media is all about, because we're a media company focused on using media to be able to inspire those kids. And when we talk about the lack of diversity, it is not just ethnic diversity, but it's gender identity, neurodiversity, and diversity of disabilities. And that's what we're looking to do. We know that there's this huge problem that we're trying to solve. And we know that it's not just a problem individually from a cultural perspective for those particular communities, but it's also a socioeconomic problem or economic development problem for the United States to remain competitive. Diversity has always been at our core what has allowed us to be more successful and more competitive than other nation states. And that's something that we haven't been leaning to in the STEM fields. And in my opinion, it's one of the reasons that we're falling behind when it comes to certain competitiveness across the globe. And it's not just the kids that are being affected by this, it's also the teachers themselves that are teaching these communities. So we know that there's this issue. So how do we solve that? Well, media is one of the greatest tools that we have, one of the greatest influential aspects. It's only been growing, right? And this has been evolving with us, whether it's long form media, short form media, regardless of your age or your background. Media is something that is pervasive in our society, pervasive throughout our cultures. And it's a way really that we see ourselves in the world, we express ourselves, and it's a way that tells sometimes individuals what they can and cannot do. And that's where we're looking to do the paradigm shift, because we know that there is a lot of data showing that there is a power of educating people through media. If I'm sure most of us, if you're of my generation or older, have heard the term designated driver, although I'm pretty sure in a couple of decades that term might leave the colloquial sayings, only because I think Uber and all those other forms will take over. And people won't ever have to be driving, or autonomous vehicles will take over. But that designated driving campaign, or those actual terms, the way it became very popular in late culture is actually an edutainment campaign, so an educational media campaign that was actually pushed forward by Harvard, and they put that terminology and those types of subject matter areas that they discussed actually within popular media in the 80s. Things like Cheers, LA Law. Most recently, similar types of campaigns have shown to be very efficacious when it comes to reducing vaping in kids under 18. The FDA and the NIH did a campaign called the Real Cost campaign, where they did both long form and short form media, like this movie, The Real Cost that you see, to get kids to learn about vaping and learn about the dangers of vaping and try to minimize that. So this combination of education and media is something that's very powerful, and there's a lot of data behind it. And throughout the presentation, you'll see some of our little illustrations and animations that we sprinkle throughout. And we'll get into a little bit more of our particular media and how we're using to actually inspire kids from these communities to go into science and technology. But we know that media representation is a problem in and of itself, right? There's this lack of media representation of minorities or different backgrounds in media, whether it's in writing and in popular media. And the issue is primarily, even though this tends to be growing now, the protagonists that come from underserved communities often don't have those roles of the scientist, the engineer, the mathematician, or the doctor. And the thing is, if you can't see it, you can't be it. Or with kids, you can't dream it. And that's what we're looking to do. That's what we're looking to change, to give that representation within different media content so that they have something that they can dream to and aspire to be. And we're creating content, we're creating different things from not just early childhood, but all the way up, because we know that as you get older, kids tend to be lost in the middle school and the high school age groups, particularly if you come from a BIPOC community, if you come from an LGBTQ plus community, or young girls, we tend to lose them. They may be doing really, really well in STEM up till the middle school kind of age, but we lose them. So we're creating content so they can keep seeing people that look like them, that speak like them, that have their backgrounds in those fields, which is very, very important. Now, one of the projects that have been out there that there's been a lot of research around is actually using CyberChase. Some of you may know CyberChase. It's a very popular show, STEM-based show. It was actually pushed forward by ASIL, or the Advancement of Informal Science Learning. And this particular project actually combined both kind of high-tech media and also low-tech. And that's the important thing if you're trying to reach people from underserved communities. This particular project was focused on Latinx or Latino communities, where they used SMS or text-based application to actually reach the family. So once a week, they would get a text message that would have a message of the week, and also with a little video, that video or a video link. And that video link would be a 2 to 4 minute video around CyberChase that would talk about what the lesson was for that week. And then it would have essentially a hands-on activity, which is also very important, that the families could do at home. And these types of activities were things that you wouldn't have to buy anything extra, things that you could use from around the house or in the neighborhood to be able to learn about that particular science engagement project. And then the families actually had a closed Facebook group in which they could speak to one another about the project and kind of give feedback and kind of have that supportive community in there. So they're able to share with one another. Now, if you haven't heard about the ASIL program, the Advancing Formal STEM Learning Program, the main things are here, these 4 points. It's a branch of the NSF, the National Science Foundation, which funds many, many, many STEM and STEAM projects. The 4 emphasis focuses are as follows. So it's advancing evidence-based understanding of design and development for STEM learning, providing new pathways for broadening access to engagement in STEM learning, and finding innovative ways to both learn about how informal science affects people and how people actually learn from informal science engagement, and how that engagement can actually affect the public of all ages. It's not just looking at kids, but looking at family units as well. The CyberChase program, you can see everything was done in English and Spanish or Spanglish in some aspects. You can see some of the activities here or the activity wheel. The family being very core and important to the child's learning, especially when you're doing early childhood education, and showing that media can actually be a very effective tool to reach Latinx communities and be able to engage them in science. Again, not just the kids, but the entire family core unit, and how something like SMS is very, very powerful. And that's the thing that we tend to forget, that as we're trying to reach underserved communities to go into STEM, they're still specifically here here in the US, but even globally, there's still a digital divide that comes along with that. So even though you might make this great, maybe AR, XR, MR, or VR type of application, mixed reality, augmented reality, extended reality, and virtual reality applications, sometimes the fact that you're making something with advanced technology, there's this gap and it's not going to reach the people that you're trying to reach. But SMS and using that in a very innovative way is something that can be used to reach really everyone. And we've shown that that can be very effective. These were some of the activities you can see, like the habitat walk or cycling bird feeder activities that would be part of the innovation or of the project. You can see how the messages were sent there on the bottom right with a little message for the activity, and then also the link to the video, and then some of the interactions that they had in their closed Facebook book and Facebook work group. And this went on for 6 weeks. And we've worked on similar SMS projects with the Clean Global Initiative. We did this last year. They've had this project called Too Small to Fail, or you might know in Español, Pequeños y Valiosos. So these SMS applications or messages were things that we would provide to the Clean Global Initiative and they would send out. They were all STEM-based and they were all very simple things you could do around the house, little science lessons that you could do with your kids, again, in the home or in the community. And this reached over 50,000 families every week. So that's the power of using a very old piece of technology in a very novel way. You can even combine it with something like a chatbot, where you have artificial intelligence actually use that for interaction, which is another application that we've done with the Medical Society of Virginia to actually teach about healthcare education to folks in our local community. Another project which actually reached out for engagement through representation and through video creation. So it's important to have representation within the content. And that's what this project with PBS did. And that what they were focused on is trying to evaluate whether people from BIPOC communities, Hispanics, African Americans, if you showed representation using short form video, how they engaged with it and how seeing people like them was important. That whole concept of if you can't see it, you can't be it. And they showed, as you would suspect, that yes, if you had someone that looked like you on the screen, you were more prone to be engaging with it and being able to see yourself in doing that kind of content or being that in the future. So it's very, very important. And also, it's not just representation. They also showed, well, how that person dresses and also how the type of content is, like if you used comedy or something else, how those things tend to affect folks. And we'll show you some content that we created short form. And that's the things that we do. This is all our own content that we create. This is available on our website, Amazon, Barnes & Noble's, Target, things like that. We sell on all the major e-commerce places as well as, and we create everything both print and digital. That if it's our own, if we're working with a partner, we create it however they want us to create it for their distribution. You can see our diverse characters. We think that this is very important, and we've shown that the data shows that. So we have little Artemis there at the top left. She's a Latina astronaut, and actually that book is certified by the Space Foundation to teach space science. We actually are the first media company to be in this Space Foundation's Hall of Fame for space science. All our intergalactic kind of or space science stuff, it falls under that. We have Jane there at the bottom right. She's our little astronomer, and we actually did that in collaboration with the Arecibo Observatory. We have several physicians there in bottom left in our Good Night Little Doctor series. And then you can see three of our characters from our webcomic called Intergalactic Academy. You have Sophia, Aza, and Rakona, which again are diverse not just in gender, but also in religion and in culture. Another project that was really focused on younger viewers was Hacking Your Mind. This was a project, again, funded by the NSF ASO project. It was really to attract and engage with younger audiences and using informal science specifically for that. And that's the thing. We've shown that it's really early childhood education and those early stages of development that you start developing what you can be, that concept of what the reality or what is the limit to what you can dream, essentially. You start thinking about yourself and picturing yourself and things at that very early stage. But as I mentioned before, it's important to cultivate that as the child grows and create that STEM pipeline to eventually those will be the kids that will go off to college and study those STEM fields. And then they will enter STEM workforce and they'll become the STEM executives. But if we don't cultivate them, then we'll see that those percentages continue to go lower and lower and lower. We know that the lack of diversity is a problem just at the base level within cyber and other STEM fields. But as you go up middle management and the executive level, those numbers become even more abysmal. So catching them early is important. And that's what the data showed for this. And I'll show you one of the projects we worked with called with Tipping Point Media on a project for the Space Foundation.
On the surface of Mars, no matter which direction we look, we see the color red. There's so much red in every direction that even from the surface of Earth, when we look up into the night sky, we see Mars as a reddish dot. That's part of how Mars got its name. Why is Mars red? Was it always this red? The answer is probably not. Mars is red today for the same reason that iron turns red when it rusts. We basically think the entire planet rusted within millimeters of the surface. Rust happens when iron reacts with oxygen in the atmosphere, often in the presence of moisture, although it's not strictly required. One of the mysteries of Mars is how the rocks ended up rusting. Did it require rainfall? Did it require a moist environment? Or did this turning of the gray rocks red happen in some other way? It's a mystery that we still have to figure out. And in the meantime, we get to look up and see the red dot, or stand on the surface and see red in every direction.
That same project that was, again, with our partners Tipping Point Media for the Space Foundation. This character is Cosmo. The background story for him is he's an artificial intelligence that was sent to Mars ahead of human exploration to Mars by this secret organization called WASA back in the 1950s. And then a character, Dr. Intergalactic, which we use in a lot of our content, which is resembles another kind of bald Puerto Rican that you might know, goes up into space and kind of meets our Cosmo and kind of teaches him how to be an AI. And you can see John Sigliani from Tipping Point Media there using the facial recognition to animate Cosmo. Another project that we've worked on to reach younger viewers, and this one's freely available, called Infiniscope. This was funded by NASA and the NSF, and it was produced by Arizona State University. If you go to infiniscope.com, you can see that it's free space modules for kids really of all ages and parents to engage in space science. And you can see these here. And next year, we're working with them to translate everything into Spanish. And the content that's our own that you can find on our website or those other places, we always create in Spanish, English, and now we started creating the content in Dari and Pashto, which are the most commonly spoken languages from Afghanistan, to help with the new Afghan refugee neighbors who were our allies in the war, both for the kids and for the families. And we also have bilingual books that have both Spanish and English together, and also now Dari and English together to help with that cultural and linguistics aspect. Another project that was, again, funded by NSF, really focused on creating content by kids for kids. And this was in collaboration with the Hispanic Communities Network and the Youth Development Inc. And it shows that when you have content that's actually created by children themselves for other kids, it has a big impact in getting kids to be motivated and to go into the fields of STEM and to learn about them. And it's really across all content, whether it's movies, whether it's illustrations, graphic novels, comics, even still images, photography. It's really about having kids understanding who they are and their communities. And I'll show you a project that we worked on for this around. We worked on it with the Alliance for Innovation. They're an international nonprofit. They produced it, what we did was we took a movie that was actually filmed on the International Space Station with an astronaut called George Samka, and you'll hear his voice in one of the videos I'm about to show. And what we did was we created an online platform and allowed this movie to be seen for free, really anywhere in the world. And then we asked the kids to create their own content based on how the movie made them feel, how space made them feel, how our humanity's role in space exploration in the universe made them feel, how the music in Chopin made them feel, and why Chopin It's because the Alliance for Innovation is from Poland, and the movie actually was all about Chopin in space. It's called Chopin the Space Concert. So they took this DVD up to space on the ISS and they played Chopin music, and then the astronauts talked about how space made them feel. So you'll see a lot of that come together.
The stars have wisdom. They share the light of ages. The trees are watchers. They record the years and the seasons. They do this for you. You are the future.
The other project that we're working on to get kids to create content themselves for kids was actually the brainchild of Professor Latinx, Federico Aldama, Mexican-American professor out of UT Austin. He was previously at the Ohio State University, and he brought together ourselves and other diverse groups, and we created the Latinx Pop Culture Lab out of UT Austin. This was the first year that it was in enrollment. And the purpose of the Latinx Pop Culture Lab is to get kids from the surrounding Austin community, both high school, college kids, kids primarily Latinx, but all BIPOC kids, to get inspired to create pop culture and to be able to tell their own stories. Because at the end of the day, if we don't tell our stories, who will? So that's the motivation, to get these kids to get into popular culture, creating media, and understanding the power that media has to tell their stories and to move the needle forward for humanity. And then we have other aspects in there that we teach about both the economics of how the business works in media and be able to kind of progress in that perspective. But we have a lot of really cool content that's coming out of there that the kids are creating for other kids themselves. But these are the types of things that are really important. We're actually going to have several events around South by Southwest next year. So if you're in the Austin area, or if you're coming out to South by, reach out, because we have a lot of really cool panels and a lot of really cool presentations that are going to be primarily both for the kids and by the kids. So I think everyone will enjoy it. Another really popular, a really powerful kind of STEM project, informal science project, really was around the 2017 solar eclipse. And this was NASA sponsored. All this content was created both in Spanish and in English. It shows the power of space science. It shows the power also of the NASA brand, and how things in outer space and STEM in general really inspire kids, and kids from all communities, and reached millions upon millions of kids. And this was an amazing project. I mean, our Chopin in Space project, I'll show you some more video of that. We actually reached over 3 million kids in a matter of weeks, and we reached over 5 continents. We had kids from Indonesia, from India, from Turkmenistan, from Turkey, from Tanzania, kids all across the United States, in Latin America, which both watched the video and submitted content for it. And we'll show you a highlight of that. I'm Dr. José Morey. Some of you may know me as Dr. Intergalactic. I'm CEO of Astra Media, and I would like to introduce you to an amazing project, the Chopin in Space Children's Initiative Project. This was a project in collaboration with the Alliance for Innovation, our partners from Poland. The purpose of this was to bring the magic of Chopin, the space concert, to kids here in the United States, but it went beyond that.
Hi everybody, George Zamka here. I'm a former United States astronaut. I flew twice into space. Both missions were on board the space shuttle, and they went to the International Space Station. As a child, I was inspired by the Apollo astronauts who were then flying to the moon.
There's only one woman in space. We need to fix that. First thing you want, Mercury is number 1. Venus is number 2. It's too hard for
I'm Dr. Hood.
So we've been able to create content over the last several years for a wider range of organizations, both private sector, both public sector. If you know anyone that is interested in a specific DEI project or needs any illustrations, animations, graphic design, these are all things that we've done for folks, with folks, and for folks. So it expands the gambit, both from illustrations to animations. We've been able to reach over 4.5 million kids over 5 continents. We have, this slide's a little bit old now. We actually have over 30 of our own projects that are out throughout that you can purchase and buy online. We've worked with several school districts throughout the country getting our content into their schools and also helping them develop content and outreach. We've even started developing things with the metaverse. Our first projects were just creating one-of-one NFTs. We actually have 2 other NFT projects that are coming out. So anyone that's involved with the metaverse or understands the potential impact that it has in the future, happy to discuss what we're doing in that space. Some of the other characters that we have from our Goodnight Little series and our comics, we have Fred and Dynamo, which are little robots. Here's Dr. I again, which we use a lot in many of our in much of our content. With Leo, who's our first representation for diversity. So he's our first non-hearing boy. We have little Leland, who's our little doctor, and then Pascal and Dex. And again, all our characters are diverse in, as we mentioned, it's neurodiversity, gender identity, disability, and ethnicity, which we find very important. Here's our Intergalactic Academy, which is also certified by the Space Foundation in the Hall of Fame. And we actually won top 11 comic when we unveiled it last year. So it's been very successful. This is available freely on Webtoons and on our website and on our Instagram. And we're going to start selling actual physical copies of this that will be signed if people are interested. But this is available right now for free. A lot of other projects that we have kind of cooking and working. We worked on Space Racers, or we're in collaboration with Space Racers. They're available on YouTube or spaceracers.com. They're a 3D animated series that follows several space planes that teaches STEM and also DEI. First season was on Netflix. Future seasons are coming out next year, so stay tuned for that. And then most recently, we worked with NASA on their first woman comic, or Primera Mujer. This is also freely available digital on NASA's website. I don't know if you've seen this, but this was an amazing project that we were asked to work on from the National Institutes of Aerospace. So I wanted, if you haven't seen it, wanted to show it to you because it's pretty cool. Both available in English and in Spanish, and it's got augmented reality and mixed reality aspects to it as well. So if you go to Primera Mujer, you can download it and you can see the work that we did there. But it doesn't stop there. We know that we're a media company. We're focused on putting diversity in front of kids and in the entertaining way and seeing themselves in the content, which they don't have and we need more of. But we also know that that's just one part of it, and that's our core. But we also know that we have to get into the schools with education, showing representation within the educational content. So we actually started testing educational material this summer with a group, a nonprofit educational group, amazing, called the PASS Foundation out of Ohio. They've been around for about 3 decades. They're all PhD educators and anthropologists. And what we've done is they created educational content based on our entertaining content, so our books and our comics. So we combined and fused, the education and the media, so edutainment. And we have educational modules that we've tested, and we've actually shown, because we did pre and post testing, that kids being exposed to content that has diversity in it. So we had the books and then the actual modules that had the little characters in it, actually changed the perception of someone that could go into science. So post testing or post experience to our content, they actually chose someone that was more diverse, both gender or ethnically diverse, as a potential option of who could be a scientist, an astronaut, or a doctor. And we're also working at the government level, trying to get more of this type of content passed or supported by Congress. And those educational modules now are available for purchase by school districts, homeschoolers. They all consist of 1 week modules, about 30 to 45-minute lessons. They're all hands-on things that go along with one of the books or one of the comics, available in English, where it will be available in Spanish soon. And that can be, we can distribute that into schools. And we tested it on over 200 kids. And we have a lot of other projects that are coming down the pipeline that we're excited about. The team itself, Keenan spoke about this, I'm sure some of the other speakers did. The team that we've created is the team that we want to see in the world. It's the world that we are trying to create. The team is diverse in every aspect that we mentioned. We're diverse in ethnicity and gender identity, neurodiversity, disability, and we think it's important, and in age. We think that if you're going to create content for kids of underrepresented communities, then those creators should come from those communities. And we want to create a company that is as diverse as the kids that we're trying to reach, which in media is the same problem that you have in STEM, is that there's this lack of diversity. So from top to bottom, we have a very diverse group, and we're going to continue to push this because that's the culture that we want to create. If you want to help, if you want to be a part of it, there's a lot of ways to do that. You can follow us on social media at Dr. Intergalactic on Instagram. You can go to our website, purchase things there. We're about to go through an equity CF raise. We'll be live on this platform called Ignite Social Impact probably in the next week or two. So people can invest for equity into the company for as little as $100 to as much as $5 million if you wish, if you have the extra cash around. We're looking to grow the village. And then Frank, who spoke earlier, myself actually have a new book out. We're #1 right now on Amazon in both economics, business, and entrepreneurship. So, purchasing that for stocking stuffers or any of our kids' books, if you have grandkids or your own kids that are interested, all those ways are ways that you can keep helping us push this mission forward and make this world a more equitable for everyone, and let everyone know that STEM is open for all. So thank you very much. Eric, I can't hear you, buddy. I don't know if anybody else can hear Eric.
Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, I got it.
All right, so that was incredibly interesting. I made a comment on the chat that as soon as you started talking, the chat went quiet because all the eyes were on you. So amazing work that you and the team are doing. We're starting a program called Raices Kids. So we're working to bring the field of cybersecurity into the K through 12 environment. So I'd love to talk to you about what we're trying to do and where we're trying to go with that.
Sure, yeah, that would be, we'd love to have those conversations. There's a lot of companies that we're creating content for to get their particular field in front of diverse kids, whether it's with books, graphic novels, or animations. So there's a lot that we can do, and it's the way that kids are really consuming media, and not just media, but education, right? There's all that data. So it's not just the way that you can reach kids and let them know that you're there and the type of field that it is, but also get them inspired to go into those fields. It's really important. So yeah, happy to have those conversations of how we can help you and help Raices do that.
Wonderful. Again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for showing all the stuff. I know all the members are just eyes are popping out of their heads. So thank you again. Appreciate it, Dr. Intergalactic.
Muchas gracias, everybody. Much love. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. you.